All right. Well, welcome back to the WeWealth Women podcast. My name is Athena Gardner, CPA and founder of WeWealth Women, where I help women live the wealthy goddess lives that they're supposed to be. Today in the studio, we have Nada here. She is a founder and CEO of Rise Up For You, which is a globally recognized thought leader, two-time TEDx speaker, and two-time #1 best-selling author with a master's in executive leadership and over 100,000 individuals coached. That's a lot. Trained across 50 plus countries, she has inspired audiences around the world to break through barriers and rise up to their full potential. She's been featured on platforms like Apple TV, Bloomberg, Amazon Prime, and now the WeWealth Women podcast, and has shared stages with legends like Tony Robbins, Les Browns, and Sharon Letcher. From Times Square billboards to boardrooms across the globe, her impact is undeniable. And today she's here to share her story, her wisdom, and mission with all of us. So introducing the incredible Nada. Thank you.
Hello. Thank you, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here, Athena. Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor. I'm excited to share with you and your audience today.
I'm excited to have you on the show. I can already tell this is going to be a wonderful conversation. So before we dive into all the insightful, juicy questions, I have one little game that we like to play.
Okay.
Called This or That.
Okay.
So with This or That, we're going to ask, would you rather do this or that? And then you pick an option. Hold on one second.
Okay.
Yes, you're going to pick this or that.
Okay,
so
great.
Let me see. So first question, would you rather speak on a TEDx stage or be featured in Times Square?
Times Square, for sure. Yeah, I would say that, Times Square.
Why Times Square?
Well, I've done both. As you mentioned, I've done a couple of TED Talks, and I was also featured in Times Square as the co-host of a TV show called The Office Hours. I don't know. I think I don't know why. Maybe it's because I've already done a TED Talk. Well, I've also already been on Times Square, but I think it's just cool, the magnitude of it being in Times Square and, what it attracts. So, yeah.
Okay. I can see that. So for the next question I'm going to ask is, would you rather books or podcasts for daily inspiration?
Well, I do both, but I think podcasts I do most consistently. So probably podcasts. I listen to podcasts every day.
Really? What are your favorites right now? Like, what do you like to listen to?
So most of my podcasts are not, I wouldn't say they're inspirational. They're more informative. So I listen to a guy named Patrick Bet-David. I'm a huge fan of the Hermosies. I'm sure your audience has probably heard of Alex and Layla Hermosi. Yeah, I love their work. I listen to, Patrick Bet-David, Joe Rogan, Tucker Carlson. Things just that they do interesting interviews that I like to listen to their interviews and their conversations. But I would say like business and inspirational, definitely the Hermosies. Dave Ramsey is a great one. I like to listen to Steve Bartlett, the CEO of a Diary, or the Diary of a CEO, whatever the title is. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I listen to a bunch of them as well. For sure. Diary of a CEO, for sure. I like the Hormozis as well. Yeah. Very fascinating. Okay, so she is a podcast girl.
Yeah, I am.
Okay, so which would you prefer, coaching one-on-one or speaking to a stadium?
Speaking to a stadium for sure.
Speaking to a stadium before. Do you get nervous at all when you do your speeches or no?
Not anymore, because I've trained my brain to come from a place of service
Mhm.
not self when it comes to speaking. And I think a lot of times people get nervous when they speak because they get in their head and they make it about themselves. And so now for me, oftentimes I don't necessarily get nervous. I might get a little anxious or excited, but I don't get nervous because I reframe my mindset around like, this is not about you, Netta. This is about them. And that really helps me get grounded.
Yes. Okay. Love that. And a nice tip for those of us who have
Yeah.
like speaking or fear of public speaking.
Yeah. Which is
Okay.
normal.
It's normal. It's
Yeah.
very, very normal. I
Yeah.
remember, and I think experience helps. I remember my first few talks, I'm like, oh my God, or even on the internet, much
Yeah.
less
Yeah.
even a stadium, even on the internet, there's a lot of, and I'm sure you come across this with your clients as well. There's a lot of people who want to go in business or have businesses, but have a fear of being
Yeah.
seen publicly or putting themselves in a public space. And I was actually surprised how high that is. I'm like, you're trying to be in business, but
Super
you don't
high.
want to like see.
Oh, I could talk to you about that all day with just our clients and what we see. Most of it is rooted in self-confidence, which is why,
Hmm.
it's hard for individuals to do it. Is it's rooted in self-confidence. But if you want to build a business, a successful one, you need to do it, or you need to hire a brand ambassador. But most people that are just starting their business, they don't have the funds to go hire a brand ambassador.
Hmm. You are the
Mhm.
brand when you're just starting
Yeah,
in the
you are the
most
brand
cases.
for
So,
sure. Uh-huh.
mhm. So fascinating. And then, okay, morning mindset routine or evening reflection ritual.
Morning mindset routine. Hmm.
What does your morning mindset routine would look like if you have one?
Yeah, I do have one. There's slight iterations, but for the most part, the things that I do consistently every day is wake up and pray first, non-negotiable. I have my cup of coffee in silence, which I love. So pray, have my cup of coffee in silence. And then depending on the day, a great day is that I get a little bit of reading in and then I work out. And then I get ready for the day and listen to podcasts. Sometimes I don't get the read. I get the workout, but I don't get the reading the book. Sometimes I get the reading in the book, but I don't get the workout. But for the most
Mhm.
part, those are the things I do consistently. I work out in the morning at least 5 days a week. I read a book, couple days, read parts of a book, couple days a week. All of it's done in the morning.
Okay. I'm a morning girl too. Like I get up, I feed my cats, I
Yeah.
drive to this huge, massive park that it's like this nature like trail that you can canoe,
Yeah,
do all this stuff. And I do my walks and I feel like that helps me ground it. I notice a difference when I don't do it.
for
So I
sure.
know that it works. And then for
Me
me
too.
too, being out in nature is so impactful because it's like I get fresh air, get
Yep.
revitalized, I get some interaction. So that's not, I'm definitely a morning. Nighttime, it can look all kind of ways. Like
I'm in
I used
bed.
to have a
At 9 o'clock,
nighttime.
I'm in bed.
Right. I used to have a nighttime routine too, but like sometimes I'm so tired I just fall asleep. Like I'm just
Exactly.
lucky if I take my makeup off in time and just like do all of
Exactly.
that in the nighttime.
Exactly. Exactly.
Okay. Last question. Legacy or impact? Which this or that? Legacy or
Well,
impact?
I okay, I'm gonna disrupt your game here. I think that it I think that if you make an impact, you leave a legacy. I think it's one and the same. So
Mm,
I would say make an impact, make a great impact. And if you make a great impact, a legacy will be left behind.
I love that. I love that. When I was looking at it too, I was like, I think they kind of both go together. So I'm glad you were able to pick up on that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, all right, I want to go a little bit into your story and your mission here.
Yeah.
What inspired you to launch Rise Up for You, and how has your mission evolved since you began?
Yeah, that's a really great question. So there's a couple things that I think inspired me, like my journey along the way. I used to be a performer and then I became an executive. And in every
Mhm.
industry that I've ever been in, it didn't matter what industry I've in, I've always saw the common challenge and the common denominator, which was highly talented people, highly educated people consistently sabotaging their success, playing small and never reaching their potential. And it really impacted the individuals, and it also impacted the organizations that they were a part of. So companies would become toxic, leadership was diminished, communication was not happening, was poor. And so I started to see a breakdown in both the organizations and in the individual's life. And most of it was due to people problems or people challenges, right? And so that kind of started this obsession around like, what does it mean to build success? And how do you become truly successful, and what are the skills that you need? Because there's a lot of people that have degrees, there's a lot of people that are incredibly talented and smart, but many of them are never truly reaching their success. They're never reaching that self-actualization and their potential. And so I became obsessed with becoming the top 10%. Like, how do you become the top 10% in life? Not just in money, not just in your job, not just in health, but in life. I'm a firm believer you can have it all. So that's where I really just started to get interested and obsessed about this. That's pretty much it. And then I went through my own journey. I was an executive professor, and I decided to resign from my company, get rid of everything, and I moved out of the country for an opportunity called marriage. And on the first day of my honeymoon, my husband said he wanted a divorce. So I lost everything. I went from a six-figure executive with the house on the lake, luxury car, you name it, to $100 in my account, and that was it. And I was disheveled. I was stressed. I was shocked. I was hurt. I really had no idea what was happening. So I got back on a plane and I started crying. I was crying so much I fell asleep. My father came to me in my dream. My father passed away when I was 27. And he said, Netta, everything you need is already inside of you. You just have to rise up for you. So I got back to California, and all I can think about was Rise Up For You. It was just a name. There was nothing behind it. And so I just started saying, okay, I'm going to build Rise Up For You. I don't know what it is. I don't know anything about entrepreneurship. I've never been in a business before, but I just doubled down. I believed in myself. I bet on myself, and I started building this company, Rise Up For You. And the first thing I did was just ask myself and ask my personal counsel, like the people around me, what am I good at? What do you see in me that I might not see in myself? And everything that they said went hand in hand with what I was passionate about, which was success. You know, I heard from my friends that you're really confident, you're good at pushing people's potential, you're a great teacher, you're really good at inspiring. And that's kind of where it started. And so I started building Rise Up For You. About 9 months later, my mother passed away. So I was 31 and I lost both of my parents, and, you know, picking myself up from the bottom. But I truly believed in what we were doing. And so I just kept building the company. Now, today we're a 7-figure business. We're in over 50 countries with our messaging. And we work with everything from Fortune 5 companies down to entrepreneurs and solopreneurs that are out there trying to make an impact.
Oh, I love that. That's such an inspirational story. And I love how you never let that hold you back, right? And you never let any of the setbacks hold you back, from the loss of your parents to the divorce to like just finding your way. I loved when you said that you bet on yourself, because I feel like a lot of people have these mindset blocks around really believing in themselves. So, another question I wanted to ask you was, what are the most common mindset blocks that hold women back from stepping into their power, into leadership?
It's self-confidence. The biggest challenge that we see with people, period. You can be an entrepreneur, you can be a coach, you can be a leader, is self-confidence. 83% of individuals say that self-confidence is their number one challenge. And so I'm really passionate about this because you hear a lot of stuff on social media and with influencers about taking action. And you hear like, it's not about being confident, it's just about taking action and then you build confidence. But I actually don't agree with that, because what we're missing, what people are missing, that the gap hasn't been bridged yet, is that there's two types of confidence. There's what I call micro confidence, which is confidence in a thing, a skill. I'm confident speaking, I'm confident coding, I'm confident skateboarding, you know, whatever it is, I'm confident selling. And then you have macro confidence. Now, most people do not have macro confidence. Confidence is a feeling that you are enough, period. Confidence is an inner belief in yourself. It's a belief that perfectionism prevents you from your potential. It's a belief that failure is needed in order to achieve success. And it's an understanding that the things that happen to you externally are not your identity. Most people do not have this. And so when you hear influencers say, just go out there and take action and then confidence will come. Well, no, the problem is that people won't even take action because their mind is crippling them from moving forward. Do you see what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so what really needs to happen first is that individuals need to build a macro level confidence, which is the inner belief that if I do take an action and I fall, it's all good. Right.
Yeah.
And then that's how you build more micro level confidence. Most people struggle with the macro. That's why I just launched my new book. I know we talked about this before we started. My new book is Self-Confidence: How to Overcome the I'm Not Enough Mindset. Because there's so many people out there. I see one or two things. Either they want to build a business, they have big plans for themselves, they want to take action, but they never really get there because this gets in the way. So they don't do the video that they need to do to grow their business. They don't go out and shake hands and network, even though they need it to get their message out there. They don't do the cold calling or pick up the phone and talk to the clients, even though that's how they're going to make the money, right? Or they don't go into their leader's office and say, hey, I'd love a promotion. This is the value that I brought, because they struggle with self-confidence. The other person that we see is the person that is super successful. They're doing great things. They're climbing the career ladder. And no matter what they achieve, they still don't feel enough. They can get all these accolades. They can get these accomplishments. They can do all these amazing things. And at the end of the day, when they put their head on a pillow, they still ask themselves, why am I not good enough? And what am I going to do to make myself better?
I've seen that a lot too. I know a lot of people who are like overachievers, perfectionists, and I think the feeling that it's not enough is probably what drives them to achieve. So it's just this cycle of like achieving, but like it's not really fixing that inner feeling about
It's
about
empty. It's empty, and you end up living your life chasing. So you constantly chase, but you never feel enough. And so the goal is, how do I build that macro level confidence so that I do feel enough? And at the same time, I'm building a life that's fulfilling, that's thriving, that's exciting, that's accomplishment oriented. You could have both, and it's possible to have both. I'm a huge believer that you can have it all.
I think so too. I love abundance mindset. Usually I'm like, why do I have to choose? Like, can't I have it both?
You don't have to. You just have to work hard, right? And you have to have the right strategy and surround yourself with the right people. And you got to get this right first.
Right. For example, right. So I have a question. So how do you define executive presence? Because you have a master's in what, executive leadership, I believe.
Yeah.
And how can women develop it authentically?
Yeah. So executive presence to me is the highest level of presence. It's a presence that's grounded. It's influential, right? So influential is really, really important. It's confident. It's assertive. It's kind. That's executive presence, right? It's being able to own a room, but not overshadow people in the room. See the difference? It's like I can own a room and still give space for other people in there. I can be confident and assertive in a room and not be aggressive or turn people off. I can influence in a positive way without manipulation. That's the highest level of executive presence. It's you walk into a room and people are inspired by you, they're influenced by you, they want to follow you, and they want to take action. Now, the question, how do you get there? It's one of the hardest skills to develop, and you have to start with self-confidence and emotional intelligence. So it's specifically when it comes to women, I'm going to be really honest. A lot of times women get in their own way. So there was
How do we get in our own way?
there was a study done a couple years ago, and it was like the top 15 things that women struggle with, in climbing the career ladder. 9 of those things were self-inflicted. So 9 of those things were perfectionist mindset, women not supporting other women, right? Not being able to stand in your success, so self-promotion. So like more than half of the list was like the things that we can take ownership over, right? And then there were some things on the list that had to do with like societal impact, right? And systemic challenges that kind of sometimes can block women. And so, like, we have to understand as women that we do have the power to influence and we do have the ability to be executives and to own our power and our presence. But we also have to build the skills to do that. Emotional and social intelligence, really overcoming perfectionist mindset. Women really struggle with healthy boundaries because we, by nature, are nurturers and we want to help people. We want to give. So we have a tendency to say yes, 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 yes. And then we put ourselves on the back burner. And before you know it, all of our boundaries have been broken and we haven't taken care of ourselves. All these things get in the way of us like really stepping into our power as an executive leader and the woman that we're meant to be in the workplace, in life, entrepreneur, whatever it is.
Yeah, and I think that is, not only does it hurt ourselves, it hurts society, because I think if women
Sure.
advocated for themselves and show up in this for themselves, that would translate into higher paying jobs, being a more present partner, being a more present mother, and increase the overall contribution to society, even if it's like fractional, like what that would look like, right? As far
Yeah,
as like increasing wellness on a global scale. But
100%.
what I want to ask, 100%, right? I
Yeah.
think that that would just push society forward in ways that we probably don't even know or understand or can imagine. As far as executive presence is concerned, do you feel like all leaders have that? Is that like a leadership quality or trait you see in great leaders?
So I wouldn't say that all leaders have it because not all leaders are great leaders. There's a
Hmm.
lot of leaders that are out there that have been put in these leadership positions and they're leading a team and they haven't done the work. Right.
Hmm.
I mean, this is part of what we do with Rise Up For You. We have clients all over the world and we have companies all over the world that they hire us to come in and teach their leaders how to lead because they never
Hmm.
really learned, right? They didn't learn how to build emotional intelligence. They didn't learn how to build executive presence. And now they're responsible for this big team and it's doing more damage than it is good because they haven't built the innate leadership skills that embody trust, credibility, relationships, right?
Hmm.
And so I do think that great leaders, really great leaders, they have strong executive presence and people want to follow them. But I would say, um, instead of saying great leaders, I would say influential leaders have really great presence.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like that. I like the reframing of that. Influential leaders have
Influential
really
leaders.
great executive presence.
Yeah. Because
So what?
I know some leaders, Athena, that run companies and they're great leaders, but they're not necessarily influential, but they do the job. They're good. Their team loves them. But
Mhm.
influential leaders that can inspire, there's a presence about them. There's an executive presence. There's a way that they show up where when they walk in a room, people say, yeah, I'm going to follow you. Like
Mhm.
they aspire to be like what they see in you, they aspire to be.
So leaders are inspirational as well.
Can be, yeah, if they learn the right skills for sure.
They learn the right skills. So since we're on the topic, then what are some universal traits of great influential leaders? That what do you see?
They're self-confident first. They're highly emotionally intelligent. They know how to read a room. They understand that the way that they show up is consistently and constantly impacting how others receive them. It's the thought process of reciprocity, right? It's like influential leaders understand that what I'm giving out, I'm going to receive back. So, if, for example, let's talk about money, right? Abundance and wealth. If I'm giving out these signals and this energy of scarcity, like, oh my God, I'm not going to make the money. And what if I don't land the client? Blah, 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 like, that's what you're going to get back. But if you walk into a room and you're like, this is an abundant room, I believe that I'm going to make an impact. I have something for people to offer. They're going to
Mhm.
receive you that way and it's all going to come back. And so I think that those are just some of the things. I think the first step of influential communication is understanding that you're influencing before you even open your mouth, before you even speak. Influence isn't necessarily you talking. It's also your posture, your presence, your energy, how you walk into a room, how you look at people, how you walk and where you navigate in a room, how you read the room. All of that is part of influence. That's the first phase.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I agree. And those are some amazing traits of great and influential leaders. And I always said, like, everyone, like, people confuse leadership because most leadership is service. It's either service to a team, service to a company, service to a community. And what a lot of people aspire to be are actually bosses, like to boss people around. And that's not what leadership is. Like, leadership is definitely like service oriented. But what I also want to talk about, because obviously you've been successful, you've led your company to great heights, from humble beginnings and things of that nature, to becoming like two-time TEDx speaker, best-selling author. So I want to know, what was the hardest lesson you had to learn to get to that level, to where you were writing these books and being on these stages?
I think the hardest lesson was just learning to figure it out, because the reality is that most people, when you're starting your business, you don't have the capital. Like, I started my business with $100. And so there's a lot of people out there that want to sell you stuff. It's like, hey, I'll teach you how to do a TED Talk. I'm going to teach you how to write a book. And all those things are like 5, 10,000, 15,000, $20,000. And then there's also no guarantee that you're actually going to get that outcome, right? And so I think the hardest thing for me was in the beginning, not having any income and researching and studying how to do it all. Like, the TED Talk that I landed was because I researched TED Talks. And then I reached out and said, here's what I do. And they were like, we would love to have you. Right. But they didn't come and find me. The first one did not find me. We found them. When I wrote my book, I couldn't afford getting somebody at the time to publish my book and write my book. So I wrote my book and I learned how to self-publish it. I learned how to add it to Amazon and to the book publishers and whatever. And I became a number one bestseller. I don't know how I became a number one bestseller at the time. I didn't know how I did it, but I did it. But I learned how to do that all on my own. I learned how to build a podcast by myself. So, like, in the beginning of running a business, I basically had a ton of mentors that were through podcasting, and I had a ton of mentors through websites that I would just research and learn from. That was the hardest part. Nobody did it for me. It wasn't like, hey, can I hire you to do this? And can I hire you to do that? Because at the time I just didn't have the capital. So I would stay up till 2, 3, 4 a.m. in the morning and figure it out and then build it.
So are you saying that, especially one of the great traits in leadership or entrepreneurship or just running a business is just being a good student, because you're going to have to learn how to do these things, or bridge some gaps in order to be successful?
Being a good student will help you be a great leader, because now I have a team, right? So I'm not doing all these things by myself. I have 20 people on my team, but because I was a team of one before, I know how to help my team because I know how to do it all. So when a team member is like, well, I don't know how to do this and this doesn't make sense, it's like, well, I've done it. Let me guide you. Let me coach you. Let me show you how we did it. You know what I mean? Like, so when you're in the trenches, it allows you to build more trust and credibility with your team because you've been through it.
Right. So is that what advice would you give, like, women who are scared to take the lead in entrepreneurship or leadership, like women who are scared or feel like, I don't know if I can be a good student and learn all these things. It seems like there's so many things you have to learn in order to be successful.
I mean, the best advice I can give is asking yourself why. Like, whenever you have a belief, I call it a limiting belief. Whenever you have a limiting belief, you have to be willing to coach yourself. Why do you have the belief? Where did it come from? Now, what's more scary for you? Is it scary for you to try and potentially fail? Or is it scarier for you to never try and then be in the same place 5 years from now? Like that to me is more scary, to like not push my potential. And then God forbid my life is over and I never did what I wanted to do. I don't want to have a wish list of, I wish I coulda, woulda. You know what I mean? I want to have a list that says I did this and this and this and this, and it wasn't perfect, but it doesn't matter. And so I think that anybody that's out there that wants to build the business, that wants to take action, that wants to grow, that wants to be the incredible leader, it's okay for you to have fear, but don't let fear get in the way of your success. You have to be able to manage it. And you have to recognize that fear is a common human thing. Like everybody has fear, but the difference between those that are incredibly successful and those that are incredibly stuck is they push through the fear and they take action anyway. And you just got to decide. You just have to commit. What kind of person do you want to be? Are you going to be the person that gets stuck with fear, or are you going to be the person that uses fear to take action?
Right. And for me personally, I feel that I do most things afraid. But
Yeah.
then once the fear comes in, I'm like, I have to do it now because I'm afraid. And the reason I'm afraid is I think a lot of the fear is, yes, of course, there's a quote unquote failure, but it's like, what if it does go right? Like sometimes that's the fear of, then, what I have to commit to this thing now, or if it goes, am I really going to live up to whatever that leads to, right?
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
think fear for sure is such a factor and in that as well.
Absolutely.
So many things. So you've also in your career you've done TEDx speaker and all these stages and stuff like that. What was it like sharing the stage with legends like Tony Robbins and Les Brown? Do you have any favorite memory?
Not really. So just to put it to context and perspective for people, typically when you share the stage with somebody, you never see them. It's like you go on stage, you do your keynote, you do a keynote on stage, or you do a keynote virtually, and then like the next person comes on. So I've never met Tony Robbins. I would love to. I've never met Les Brown, but obviously I've been influenced by them greatly. I have met Sharon Lechter. Sharon Lechter is somebody who is one of the complete icons when it comes to women and wealth. She helped co-author the Think and Grow Rich and the Rich Dad Poor Dad. Her and I actually physically stood on stage together. We did interviews together. So, it's awesome to see them in action and then to be one of those people that gets to follow or do whatever. But I would say that, sometimes as a keynote, you don't always get that pleasure.
Right.
You're only keynote and then you walk off and you go home and that's pretty much it. But I think it's the greatest gift to be able to do a talk with other people, whether it's virtually. I've done a lot of like virtual keynotes, or whether it's on stage, because you get to learn from them. You get to learn from the best.
Learn from the best. I think that's what we all should be going. And I think when you were talking earlier about all the different podcasts and everything that you do, it's definitely learning from the best. And I think in this day and age, it's just an exciting time because you can literally have access to so much information. It's almost like
Yeah.
information fatigue. Like now you have to like, what do I want to like listen / pay attention to?
Yeah.
But with this being such an interesting time to be alive, like what are you most excited about in this season in your life?
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of things I'm excited about. I'm recently married, so that's really exciting. Yeah,
Woo!
woo, woo. So that's exciting to, just, build the relationship with my husband and then spend time together and build that connection. My new book is out, as I mentioned, the self-confidence. I'm really excited about that because the company Rise Up For You, my team and I, we teach 4 major things: self-confidence, emotional intelligence, transformational leadership, and influential communication. But self-confidence is the closest to my heart because I see so many amazing entrepreneurs and so many amazing people that have so much great skill and so much to give to the world. And they don't do it because they get in their head. And I'm like, like, it's like my personal mission to just help people build more self-confidence so that they can take action and build a life that they're actually proud of and not get in their own way. And so I'm really excited for that book, Self-Confidence, How to Overcome the I'm Not Enough Mindset. Another thing that my team and I are really, really proud of is we've had a lot of coaches and trainers come to us over the years and say, like, can we work for you? Because we have a lot of coaches and trainers that work in our company. And so what we've done is we've built a Rise Up For You soft skill certification training and coaching program. And so now we have trainers and coaches all over the world that are going through our certification. They're learning the content, our proprietary registered method, but they're also learning how to be amazing trainers and amazing coaches. And they have to go through a very intensive process. And then when they get certified, they can go out there and get their own clients. We don't take any money, but they can use our process. So now imagine being a coach, and instead of having to build your own content from scratch and build PowerPoints and coaching methods, which is very scary for people, you can get certified. And now you have thousands of PowerPoints and all the methods that we use that are proven that you can use instantly.
I think that's amazing. And I think that's a great way not only to expand your business, but like expand your influence.
Yeah.
Because you're enabling people to get certified and coach and also remove some of the fear. Because I think what's great about going through certain programs is at least you have like a professional, like you're able to leverage their expertise and really cut down on your learning curve there, because
I built all the content from scratch, like hundreds and hundreds of PowerPoints that I just stayed up at night and built through research and being a professor and stuff. And there's a lot of coaches out there that want to make an impact, but it's super daunting for them. It's like, well, what do I teach? I just got hired for training. Like, do I need to build a PowerPoint? Or now I have my first coaching client. What tools do I use? Now it's like all built for you. So.
Okay. Perfect. Now, what's one, we're going to wrap up soon, but I was just thinking, what's one empowering truth you want every woman listening to take away from today's conversation?
The greatest tragedy is wasted human potential.
Mm.
And that doesn't need to be your story. I always say that. It's like the greatest tragedy is wasted human potential. You deserve better than that. Like, no one's going to hand it to you. You just have to believe that you deserve better. And then you have to take action from that thought that I deserve better.
And I used to always say, like, as a general statement, like, you're worthy of your own effort. Like, you're worthy of your own effort. 100%. Now, I want to give you the floor. How can people connect with you? The great, you already plugged some, but the great things you have coming up ahead, and what services and programs and things you would like to provide or are available to help people.
Yeah, thank you. Well, first, let's start with just some free stuff. So if you go to riseupforyou.com and you click the free tab at the top, there's confidence quizzes, emotional intelligence quizzes. You can check your score where you're at today. There's a masterclass on self-confidence. I break down the 3 C's, emotional intelligence masterclass. All those are totally free. So if you head over to riseupforyou.com and you click that free tab button, all of those are completely open to you and your audience. And then follow us at Rise Up For You. We're everywhere. Yep. Thank you. riseupforyou.com. Our social media handle is the same. We're on YouTube. Every week we post videos. I just finished recording a bunch today. We're on Instagram. We're on LinkedIn. That's where we predominantly are. And then you can also follow me, Netta Lena Nasserdeen. I do my own social media. So if you send me a message or if you connect with me, you're not going to get a chat bot. You're going to get me. And I predominantly play on Instagram and LinkedIn.
Okay. All right. I'm glad that you can share. And can you tell us what's the name of the upcoming book that you have coming out or that's available?
The book is launched. It's the title is Self-Confidence, How to Overcome the I'm Not Enough Mindset. And you can get it on Amazon. You can also reach out to my team. Our team has a special bundle. We have t-shirts that say I'm enough. And then on the back, it says, don't let anyone tell you otherwise. So if you want the t-shirt and the book, then you can reach out to our team and we'll ship that to you. But if you just want to buy the book from Amazon, you can as well.
Amazing. Amazing. Well, thank you so much for coming on today's show. I feel like we learned a lot. Thank you for like all your insights on executive leadership and your background and what it really takes to overcome fear and that is available to all of us. And as we discussed, like especially in the coaching space, people are just very afraid to really put themselves out there. So I'm so glad that you have created a program and a service that helps people to overcome that fear, because that I think that is the biggest
Thank
block
yeah,
available.
thank you so much.
And all right, so this sums up this episode of the We Wealth Women podcast. Be sure to tune in. Links in the show note with all of Nada's information as well. Feel free to go to wewealthwomen.com where we help women live their best goddess lives. Right now, we have our latest course, The Goddess Guide to Money, honey. And then we also have the AI Business Launch to help you guys launch your business in the most quickest, efficient ways. This is Athena, my lovely guest, Nada, and I will see you in the next episode.